So today we're going to be building an MVC3 based web app using ASP.NET, local DB from Microsoft, and pushing it into the cloud on AppHarbor with an SQL server in the cloud. So let's get started. We're going to be building a new solution, MVC3 based, and let's call it First MVC App. We're going to pick the empty template with HTML5 semantic markup and the Razor viewing engine. So this is our basic structure, and let's get started with some packages from NuGet. Make sure you have the latest NuGet version. So install package MVC scaffolding, and this will help us generate some CRUD pages to get us started quite quickly. Next, we're going to install the entity framework. This will allow us to code first and not think about the SQL layer. Now, let's think about where we're going to store our data, and we're going to be using SQL local database, local DB from Microsoft. So grab that and make sure you have it installed. And to actually check that you have it installed, go ahead and add a connection and set the server name to localDB/v11. Test the connection, and it should be working. So we have the basics in, and let's build this model of a person. So let's call the class person and add some properties to our person. So public integer person ID, and this is convention, so it's important to write the ID just like that after the class name. Let's add a public string name for our person, and that'll do for now. So let's go ahead and create some CRUD pages for our project. So scaffold, and this is using the MVC scaffolding package, scaffold controller person. This is creating the basic CRUD pages for creating, editing, deleting, and overall just getting us started with some pages. Next, we're going to be doing some definitions for our local DB database. So connection strings, let's go ahead and add the connection string for local DB. Now the interesting thing about local DB is that it's very compatible with Microsoft SQL servers. So whenever you're going to get into production, you can rest assured that local DB, while being very small and lightweight, is going to be compatible, your entire workflow is going to be compatible with your online SQL server. So we're going to write the connection string for local DB and set the name property to be exactly like the context name that the scaffolder or whichever context you create. This is important for AppHarbor and for ASP.NET. So remember, the name should be the same as the context. This will get us through to run the program, run our application locally. So the provider name is System Data SQL Client, and we will be running our application in a second. So start debugging, and we jump into the browser, and we are trying to get to the page, so /people, and here we go. We have a database enabled application. We can go ahead and add entries to our database. So Ala Shiban, random person, and Bruce Wayne. 3 entries in our database. So we have the basics covered. Now what we're interested in is taking this to the next level and pushing it into AppHarbor, into the cloud. So we have some definitions to do. Let's jump into the browser and get into applications and set up our application on AppHarbor. My first app, and create. So here we have some instructions for Git, and this will help us set things up. Now if you don't have Git, please install it. This is required. So write down Git for Windows in Google and just install the package. There's also a package for Visual Studio. We'll get into that later to do things visually. So to get started, we need to open up the Git Bash. So let's do that. And change our directory to the project directory. So, through Visual, right-click, and go for the open folder. Copy the folder path and paste it into the bash. Here we go. Now make sure you're in the solution folder and not the project folder. Now, let's write down git initialize and git add dot. This will add all the files to the repository. And let's already define how we're going to push the data to AppHarbor. So let's paste that straight from the website. And next we're going to have to do the commit. So we can do it visually through Visual Studio. I'm going to do that. So initial commit and click on commit. Now you can do this. You can get this connection into Visual Studio by getting to the extension manager and just downloading this Git source control right from the system, right from Visual Studio. So back to the instructions. Let's push our application into AppHarbor. Paste code. Write down our password for AppHarbor. And that's it. That easy. So let's jump and check out what we could also do to ease our programming with AppHarbor. So first we're going to put the custom errors on off. So whatever ASP spits out, we get to see it in the browser. So let's commit and push to AppHarbor. Now we can make sure that everything is working fine by refreshing and making sure the build was successful. So now the build is queued and now it's done and it's successful. It's going to take a minute to deploy and now it's deployed. Let's open it up. Go to people/people. And we get an error. Now, the reason for this error is that our application is defined to use the local DB server. Now, it's not installed in AppHarbor, so we have to add an SQL server for our application on AppHarbor. So we went ahead and added an SQL server right there, and we have to give our server an alias. So we're going to give server on AppHarbor an alias, and it's going to be the same one as the context from our application. So copy that, paste that into the AppHarbor settings, and now we're gonna force a rebuild. So let's change something small and commit and force the rebuild. We're gonna enter our password. And check out AppHarbor again. It's that easy. So now it's building, and it's done. It's been deployed. Let's refresh. Another error. This time it's invalid object name. Now the reason for this is we haven't built the data into our database on AppHarbor. So we have to give instructions to the framework to create our database, our tables, our actual database. So we include system data entity, set initializer, and write down the context name we have, include that in our project, in our page, and tell the framework what to do if the model change or if the database isn't there. So we could set it to drop create database. So every time the model changes, the framework would drop the database and recreate everything, losing all the data. Now, this isn't supported on AppHarbor, and the reason is you're not allowed to drop your database. So someone really nice developed a solution, and you can get it by getting into NuGet and writing down set initializer and you'll find this package, and it says down there that it works with AppHarbor. Now, the idea behind this is that it doesn't drop the database, it just creates the tables. So that solves the issue, and it's compatible with AppHarbor. So let's delete this part and write down the full package name, the full class name. Here we go. Everything else stays the same. Let's push this into AppHarbor. And that's it. So let's jump back into the system, let's check the status, and boom, it failed. Now, usually when it fails on something this small, make sure you have saved all the files. So in this case, we didn't save the solution, and that didn't let AppHarbor know that we used a new package. So this is a mistake. Let's fix that and push the code again. And done. So let's make sure that builds. It's building, succeeded, and deployed. So now let's refresh. And fantastic, we have the system going. It seems to be working. We can create a new person. So let's go for Ala Shiban again. Let's add another person. So this time it's going to be fantastic. And that's it, guys. We have an application that's deployed into the cloud on AppHarbor using an SQL server in the cloud. The local development model sticks, so you can continue developing offline or on your own development machine using localDB, and all you have to do is push through Git into AppHarbor and the program will continue to work. That's it, and thanks a lot.